All right, خلاص, don't worry about it.
You can open that document, you know, scroll up and scroll down in the document.
All right, you can lock it up. I gotta run to the basement and lock myself in.
We're live.
My granddaughter doesn't leave me alone.
We're live, Brother Naji.
Hey, alhamdulillah.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. We're happy we could have you guys join us today. We appreciate all the support for Yama Action, and you know, we plan to provide a vehicle and discuss with these candidates to make sure that they're taking the Yemeni American community, you know, to the heart when they decide to vote or to become elected in our city. So we are developing a series of interviews of the mayoral candidates over the next couple of days throughout the week to make sure that they address our issues head on. We've proven our resiliency during the pandemic, and over the years, we have developed our entrepreneurial spirit in New York City and proven how valuable and how much of a strength we are in this community. And it's time for them to give back to us directly and make sure that our voices are heard and we have a seat at the table. You agree with me, Brother Naji, Sister Vetna?
Absolutely, absolutely, mashallah, yes. There was a time where we asked people to vote and they will say, hey, you know, well, soon, or it doesn't count. But we realized that, you know, when Trump got elected, that we didn't have a choice. So alhamdulillah, now more than ever, people are registering to vote. They're getting active. They're getting productive. They understand how important it is that in America, you know, policy in America, you know, can change the whole world. And alhamdulillah, you know, it's wonderful to see the young people, you know, like yourself and Vetna and many others, you know, stand up to the challenge and be heard and be part of it.
Thank you. So right now we're just waiting for Eric Adams, the Brooklyn Borough President, to join us. We'll be discussing specific topics that relate to the Yemeni American community with him and how he plans on addressing them directly. We want to make sure that our voices are heard, our concerns are heard, but we don't want the fluff anymore. We've been taken for granted for a very long time, so it's time for them to understand and answer. If we need something specifically, that it'll be addressed specifically, it'll be taken care of swiftly, with no excuses.
Yes, so he just texted me. He said he'll be on and he's running a little bit behind on probably another Zoom event. You know, this is the election season. Everybody's doing 1,000 things. Like us in Yama, we try to do as much as we can, and sometimes, you know, we spread ourselves thin, and that's just the way it is at Yama. I just left that, you know, I just want to make sure that, you know, people understand that this is the most critical time in New York City history, where you have over 37 seats that are, you know, that are going to be open for grabs. You got about 35 city council seats. You got the mayor seat. You got this the city controller seat, who controls the budget, and then you have the public advocate. You know, which is also, that's a citywide seats. There's the mayor, the public advocate, and the city controller, and those seats are very important to us. There's another seat that we don't get a chance to vote on. We do vote for the city council seats, and alhamdulillah, we there's a minimum of like about 100 bodegas minimum in every single district, city council district in New York City. And New York City is divided into 5 boroughs, and the 5 boroughs are divided to 51 city council districts. So yes, and it's about 250,000 people, I believe. The last time I saw it, 220, 250,000 people. It goes by population. And one of the other important seats is the city council speaker. The city council speaker is the one that really runs the city council. The city council folks, when they're elected, come January, I'm not sure which day, but I think it's like the first week or two in January, they vote for their own leader. And that leader, it's called the city council speaker. Very important position also because they get a chance to work with the mayor to, find out what, to put the budget together and to disperse it, correctly or as much as they can. And so that's a very important position for us as well.
Yeah, I'd like to add to, a lot of people don't know what the mayor of the city of New York is a head of. So he's the head of the executive branch of the government of New York City. The mayor's office administrates all the city services, public property, police, fire protection, and most public agencies, and enforces all city and state laws within New York City. So that's a large role. And a lot of times our community doesn't understand the role of each elected official. And also he manages the budget of the city. And it's a $92 billion budget that employs 325,000 people and spends over 21 billion to educate more than 1.1 million students, the largest public school system in the United States. So his role is really large. And the budget is very large. So it's very important who we choose to be the next mayor of New York, because those budgets do affect our frontline workers, our bodega workers, our small business owners. Like you said, Brother Naji, this morning, our community is expanding to all parts, from restaurants to travel agencies to poultry markets to different venture capital. So we have to also be able to provide those services for our community by making sure we choose the right candidate for the mayor of New York City.
Absolutely. So in the public school system, just while we're on that, and waiting for Eric to jump on with us, about 10 years ago, they used to say that 1 out of every 12 children in the public school system, 1 out of every 12. So that means one of them is a Muslim. And just recently, about 8 years ago, it went 1 out of every 10. And so forth. Right now, they say out of 7 children in school, 1 of them is Muslim. And at the moment, we estimate that the number of Muslims in New York City is about between 1.1 and 1.3 million Muslims. And that's a huge number. And, as, going back in history, when Bloomberg ran 12 years ago, he promised us that he was going to give us the Eid holiday, by the way. And he promised us. And then when he won if we elect him and we vote for him, he won the election. And then when the city council speaker gave him the bill to sign the Eid holidays, into New York City law, he actually vetoed it. Now that was a very, one of the toughest times for me, because me and my wife, because we knew Bloomberg well and we believed him. And at that moment, it was one of the toughest times, but also, it was also one of the most inspirational time, because we said, we're going to cry about this and get upset, or are we going to sit down and get busy and plan the next 4 years on how we can get this Eid holiday, to be official. So it's not only us at the Yemeni community, but there's a lot of other communities like the African American community. They've been working on this for 30 years, before that. And alhamdulillah, when the election came 8 years ago, de Blasio was running and others, they all said they were going to give us the Eid holiday, but Bill de Blasio was the first one to say it and promise it, live on camera. And alhamdulillah, we got it. When he was elected, we got the Eid holidays. And now, because of that work of all the Muslim community, not just one particular people or any particular, individuals, the Muslim community, did amazing things of getting petitions, registering tens of thousands of people to vote, and we got it done. And so now that's probably over 50 other cities around the country. So that's what happens when you get involved. inshallah. Let me just text him. Okay. So we're also going to be looking for volunteers. So, Yusuf, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I have. Well, actually, Eric Adams is entering the chat now, so we can
Okay.
get ready to. Remember, everyone, ask your if you have any questions, please provide it in the comments. Hello.
Hello, how's it going?
What's up, brother? How are you?
Quite well. In the car, headed to another event.
Yes, I know you guys are very busy right now. So I'm going to introduce Brother Yusuf. Take it on.
How are you, Mr. Borough President? I'm Yusuf Mubarak. I'm the president of Yama Action. We have Naji Al-Mutasser here, who you know quite well, and Sister Vetna Munassar. We want to honestly thank you for taking the time to meet with us and sharing your views about how you plan to help the Yemeni American community, if you were elected mayor for New York City. So I just want to start off with a brief introduction of Yama Action. So we're a vehicle to educate, engage, and empower the Yemeni American community. We're dedicated to continuously improving our efforts in addressing issues that impact the Yemeni American community. And we invite our community to become politically and civically engaged, much like events like this. Since our inception, which you know quite well, through the bodega strike on February 2nd, 2017, we've come to realize we can no longer live in the shadows, but rather it's time to amplify our voices and let our presence be known in the streets and specifically at the ballot box. So just to give a brief background to people who are joining on what we've done, we've created a questionnaire that we've sent out to all the NYC mayoral candidates. And at this point, we're in the process of interviewing and screening for endorsements to decide who Yama Action is endorsing on behalf of its Yemeni American community members. Once we make our decision, we'll be ranking our top candidates for mayor. For our number one candidate, we'll be providing several vehicles to get them to the finish line, such as hanging posters in our 3,000 plus bodega members in our association in all the 5 boroughs that we have direct access to. We want our candidate's face to be on every corner, every middle of the block, on every bodega throughout New York City. We'll also use our reach to activate and mobilize our community members for fundraising, phone banking, and canvassing, and all of our touch points throughout the boroughs. Due to our recent work at Yama with NYC Census, we're able to confirm there are currently 138,000 Yemeni Americans in NYC, a large majority of which are small business owners. So at this point, I'd like to hand it off to Brother Naji to introduce our first candidate for interview.
That's an easy one. It's also, one of my favorite part of introducing folks that we've worked closely with. So I'll just read a little bit of Eric's bio for those that don't know. Eric Adams served as a New York City police officer, a New York City Transit Police, and then the New York City Police Department for over 2 decades, retiring at the rank of captain. He served in the New York State Senate from 2006 to 2013, representing the 20th Senate District in Brooklyn. In November 2013, Adams was elected as the Brooklyn Borough President, the first African-American to hold the position. He was reelected again in November 2017. So I think, the most important thing, about, Eric is we've, he, in the time of, the Yemen situation when the Muslim ban came, this was the man that in 4 days we made a phone call. We said, listen, my wife made a phone call and said, you know, Eric, we want to do a strike. We want to do a bodega strike. We want to shut them down and, you know, come out and make a big statement on, you know, this Muslim ban. And, you know, the answer from Eric was, sister, you have the keys to Borough Hall. You could come and do it whenever you want. And then she sprung the biggest question, you know, the biggest thing to him was, you know, we're going to do this in 4 days. Who does anything in 4 days? And every time I talk about this, I choke because it was a monumental, you know, coming out of our people, the first time ever. And he said, absolutely. And, you know, you have to remember that I found out at the same time that he said to come out, he was holding another Chinese event inside Borough Hall. So that itself was amazing to me. But anyway, we held it. And he came out with the Yemeni flag wrapped around him to the podium. Wow. So, and there's been a lot of things in the Muslim community. Like I've been here for almost 60 years and there's people that you call and they come out right away. And Eric is one of those people that has been not one time where I needed something, the community needed something, him showing up, he was there. So I don't want to go on any longer because it's, you know, I think we want to hear straight from our borough president and mayor candidate, Eric Adams. So please, Eric, you have 4 minutes to please fill our community with, you know, of who you are and what would you like to do as a mayor.
Thank you so much. And as you know, on these calls, I bring my own stopwatch so that I can adhere to the amount of time you allocate, because that's important. And, you know, you mentioned my advocacy, Najee, but, you know, really your community must acknowledge the advocacy of you and your wife. You have really compelled this city and country to acknowledge the power of your community. And I think it's just go uncommunicated. I know you don't like to be acknowledged for it, but I've watched you, you know, day and night, just being there in the little ways and in the big ways. And, you know, we need to really just lift up your entire family to talk about how you have done this. You are the Dr. King of your community. You are the Sojourner Truth. You are the Malcolm X. You know, what those leaders did for Black and brown Black communities, you are doing it for your community. And I'm not going to allow time to go by with people acknowledging just your level of commitment and dedication. The amazing march against Donald Trump was only the beginning, was one of the areas I would say. My relationship with the Muslim community, the Yemeni community, so far back. I say over again, I'm not a friend, I'm no friend of being there with those mothers, Coleman Avenue, when their baby disappearing in the middle of the night after 9/11, standing alone with those families in front of the federal penitentiary, calling for their release when it was not popular. I was demonized because of it. And no other elected official was willing to come out and stand up because we were acting like a mob going after those who were Muslims in this city. Being there when your women were being attacked for wearing a hijab, marching and standing with you, saying, we are not going to harm women here in this city. Being part of the first Muslim safety patrol. We just lost a giant in the Muslim community when Brother Sammy transitioned. Being there when a young woman was attacked on a Staten Island bus, going to ride that bus across Staten Island to say we're standing with the brothers and sisters in this community. And just being part of the community, because I don't see you as constituents. I see you as my brothers and my sisters. Because if we don't stand together, it's only a matter of time before they're coming from us one at a time. And so I need you. This organization is unbelievable. You're one of the most powerful mobilizing forces. You're right. You tapped into something. You said, hey, you know what's on every corner? A bodega. Let's turn them into mobilizing forces. And when you mobilize with your bodegas, when you mobilize with your teams, we can turn this entire city around. And so I want to be the mayor of the city of New York. One of your own will move into City Hall, and you will be respected, you will be heard, and you'll be part of my administration. So thank you for allowing me to come on, and I'm open to answer any questions that you may have.
I appreciate that. Those are amazing words. You've always been, in support of the Yemeni American community. I guess a quick story. I'm not that old, but about 15 years ago, I was at a Yemeni wedding, and you walked in the door, and you were shaking hands with everybody there. And my dad introduced me to you, and I never forgot who you are for the past 15 years. You've always been with us. So now, like you said, we gathered some questions from the community that they wanted to ask. So question one, Yemeni American owned businesses obviously are an integral part of the social and economic fabric of New York. We currently have about 6,500 small businesses in New York City owned by Yemenis, most of them being, your typical deli, grocery, and bodega. So, right off the bat, what are your top priorities for small businesses if you're elected, and why should small business owners support your campaign?
Yeah, I don't know. I may have high priorities for those small businesses. I hung up a little on my side. First, safety. Many of our bodegas are dealing with an uptick in violence, robberies, and other things. We must make them safe because the prerequisite to prosperity is safety and justice. And it's important that we create a safe environment so that they're not the victims of crimes of this magnitude. Second, to use our procurement power. We spend about $22.5 billion in procurement in the city. We need to use those dollars to purchase from the bodegas, from the small businesses. There's no reason we can't purchase some of the supplies of goods and services we need. I want to organize those bodegas as a centralized purchasing power. So if we have one entity that we're doing these purchasing unders, and they can spread it out with the bodegas that are in particular areas, that is how you empower taxpayer dollars to go right into these local stores. So let's say, for example, we are having a handball initiative in the Department of Education, and buying hundreds of thousands of handballs. Why can't we buy them through this consortium that is buying 1,000 from these various bodegas? That is how you use your tax dollars to purchase locally on a granular level. So I need to allow you to have a return of your tax dollars through the procurement that we're doing in the city. Third, we need to stop being a city where we are harming small businesses. Let's stop the over citation. Let's stop the harassment. Let's stop making this a place where it's too expensive to do business in the city and too bureaucratic. We're going to have a more business-friendly city. And last, access to capital and support. I'm going to have my Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce do the backroom work for my small businesses, including the bodegas. You shouldn't have to try to figure out rules and regulations. You shouldn't have to even deal with payroll if you don't want to. You shouldn't have to deal with compliance issues. Let's let our Chamber of Commerce handle that. You should be just running your store, selling the goods, services, and your businesses. And that's what I'm going to do. We're going to become a business-friendly city, particularly to our small businesses.
Great, I appreciate that. Honestly, it brings us to exactly what we wanted to discuss. Obviously the next mayor is responsible for rebuilding our city, back from the devastation caused by the pandemic. And during the pandemic, our bodega owners proved their resiliency by remaining open and providing to their community. And while the full effects remain unseen, a lot of our bodega owners, commercial real estate tenants, are already suffering from the pandemic by forced closures of their business and unable to maintain rent or an income to send money back home. So what will you do specifically to provide access to funds and rent relief for the small business owners who are currently struggling?
And that question, we often talk about rent relief for tenants, which is important because we don't want to aggravate our homeless crisis. So we need to be there for tenants, but we need to also be there for the other tenant. And those are the individuals who have small businesses. And so rent relief for small businesses, I believe, is crucial. We need to use some of the stimulus package that we have received from the federal and state to ensure that we give rent relief to small businesses with hardships. Those who don't have hardship should not really exploit the problem, so we could have the resources that are needed. But those with real hardships who were forced closed, who saw a major decrease in their revenue from the previous year, we need to be there for them. And then we could look at things like triple net leases. Many of these small businesses are paying the taxes to the landlord by picking up that part of the taxes. We can give the relief that's needed, and that's directly in our control. And so, but overall, you're right. We need to give relief to these small business owners, and I believe that would help them stabilize throughout this pandemic period.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay, excellent. I think that's a great idea. The taxes are obviously a burden. Anything we see that can help, we appreciate that answer. Sister Bretna.
So thank you, Borough President Eric Adams. A question from the community. The Yemeni American business owners have grown wary of the calling NYPD to address their needs concerning conflicts in their businesses due to the lack of understanding of the day-to-day problems they face in their businesses. And this is a couple of parts of this question because you addressed it in the beginning, but just wanted to go a little bit more in depth. What will you do specifically to address growing mistrust of the NYPD and the Yemeni business owners to ensure their safety on a day-to-day basis? And will you provide funding for community building programs that are already established in the Bronx that brings former gang members and clergymen and bodega owners together to address police their community directly?
Yes, thank you for that. First, about the trust. Number one, the power of a community lies in choosing the people who will represent their communities. Cities are made up of agencies. And if you don't control your agencies locally, you're not going to be able to control the resources from the city. And one of the most powerful agency leaders is the person that is in charge of a precinct. That precinct person deploys those cops to go to the bodega. That precinct commander deploy all those law enforcement resources. Eric Adams is mayor. Those bodega associations and groups and other youth groups, youth organizations, they will sit on the interview panel that will interview the potential candidates to become a precinct commander, and they will find out what their vision is for the city, for the community, how they're going to deploy their police officers. They're going to look at their background. They're going to have to come with letter of recommendations from where they were previously. This way, that precinct commander is going to know the decision for him to be there or not depends on the stakeholders in the community giving him the approval. That empowers you now. So he's no longer going to come into your stores, no longer going to deal with your community, your young people from an adversarial place. He's going to deal with you from a partnership. And that's extremely important, has never been done before, has been just the opposite, based on where you live in the city, how you're treated when you call the police. When you call the police for services, you should feel the cavalry is coming. You should not feel someone is going to be brutal, disrespectful, discourteous to you. That's the relationship we're going to end. And then we're going to empower and continue to recruit the diversity of Yemenis young people to come into the police department and have in those communities that are largely Yemenis, Americans, Yemenis immigrant, you're going to have a precinct commander that's going to be reflected of the community and all of our city services, the person who's in charge of that area. And so I'm a big believer, let's seed the dollars that are needed to bring together those coalitions with our clergies, our imams, our youth groups, so we can create a new ecosystem on public safety and not just be reactionary to crime, but to become a more proactive to prevent crime in the first place.
Thank you, Borough President. I think that proactive approach is much needed in our community, and we hope that whoever becomes mayor also implements what you were talking about, because that's very, very, as an inner city kid from the Bronx, I was seeing a lot of violence between the bodega owners and robberies and killings. We lost many of our uncles. So I think this would be a great approach to the minority communities at large. The next question, Yemeni Americans owned businesses are located in underserved communities, generally known as food deserts. California used the soda sugar tax to purchase refrigerators for corner stores to offer fresh produce. How do you plan on assisting bodega owners to offer fresh produce in the food desert areas of New York City?
A great question, and everyone knows I'm about healthy eating. I'm about really not just responding to chronic diseases, but prevent them in the first place. And I think we need to look at examples across the entire country and globe of what are they doing to really deal with food deserts. I love that California program that you just mentioned. I love Food Bucks. This is a program that's in place where you can buy healthy food. When you go to farmers markets now, for every dollar you spend on healthy food, you get a matching dollar. I would like to come up with bodega bucks because we should focus on those areas where we're really struggling with access to healthy food. And you know what? That's where our bodegas are. You go to locations where other people don't want to open stores. So if I can create the partnership to tell the people in my NYCHA development, tell the people in low-income areas that, listen, when you go to that corner bodega and you buy something healthy with $1, we're going to match it and allow you to spend $2 in the process. And this recycles the dollars in the community and it keeps it local in the process. So by encouraging our bodegas to carry the healthy food in the first place, and second, to encourage everyday residents to know you're going to get a doubling of what your purchasing power is when you go to our local bodegas and purchase healthy food.
Thank you. Adding to that question, since we're talking about food, I know you're a big advocate on healthy foods. And as you know, the Muslim community is a large community. And having a halal meal option, and currently we have that the New York City public schools system serves halal meals to 32 schools for their students. Would you support expanding the halal meals program to all schools across the 5 boroughs in New York City? And if you do, how would you plan to provide support certifying bodies for halal food options in New York, which are currently all the way out in Florida? And that's where we get, apparently some of these halal foods get certified, and we're trying to get it in New York City.
Yes, and that's so important because I think there's 2 levels of betrayals here. The first level is not ensuring that every child that desires halal food has access to it. Second levels is what you just stated, the certification, because nothing is worse than thinking you are eating halal and just to find out some bogus person is just making money off of your religious practices. That's unacceptable. So we have to address both layers. Number one, every school where you have the majority is of Muslim population, all the food in that school, we're going to make sure it's halal. If we have a population that wants kosher, we'll do that. I keep saying to people on this trail, halal food is still food and it's still healthy food. Every child can eat halal. So
Exactly.
I think we're looking at people are looking at the situation through the wrong set of lens. They think that because a child eats halal, that they have to be a Muslim. No, a Christian could eat halal. Anyone can eat halal. So we should, instead of looking at it as how do we pick out the students, this is an excellent teaching moment to say we're serving halal food in the school, and now let's lean into the education of what halal food is. What does it mean? Why do Muslims eat it? That's an asset-based education when we start using every moment to educate instead of using moment to isolate each other. Second, we're going to create, and I'm going to advocate on the state level, that we must have real certifications, real criterias to authorize people to be certified, so you are sure when you get halal food that this person that is stated in this halal is going to be certified to do so. We're not going to have someone in Florida tell us what is certified halal food in the city of New York.
And thank you for saying healthy, because I mentioned that healthy halal food. Appreciate
Yes.
it. Yusuf.
I appreciate that, for our president. I mean, while we're on the topic, I guess, of inclusiveness, it's a great point you mentioned that, halal food is food. It's good food that we all enjoy. One of the things that Arab Americans have fought for, and not only in federally, but in New York specifically, is our MWBE designation. So Arab Americans are considered Caucasians federally. So, and we're not privileged to face. We still face the workplace and housing discrimination bias, no matter what we're classified as. So, because of this, we're overlooked for city contracts, certain jobs and situations that we can't use that, not to our advantage, but, because it's really needed. So my question to you, it's been a question I've had for a very long time, is, will you commit to advocating for federal MWBE designation of Arab Americans and change in the New York Charter for MWBE designation of Arab Americans? And, previous mayors have actually run studies and made some concessions, but we'd like to know how you plan to address this for Arab Americans, and how and when will you address this disparity?
First, to answer your question specifically, yes, both on the federal level, both on the city level. And I think it's unfair to designate you as Caucasians, put you in that position, because I think that's inaccurate on many levels. But yes, and then we need to expand the pool. This is a city of diverse groups. And I don't think we should move from a place of a deficit. We need to move from a place of surplus. And as we expand the groups we want to include in the MWBE realm, we should also expand what we are looking at in the amount of contracts. I believe 50% of this city should be going to MWBEs, and not the reaching the 30% model. And so I say yes, just to answer your question directly.
Thank you. Yes.
I appreciate that. I've been checking other for most of my life, just so I don't have to.
Yeah.
I feel you, Yusuf.
Very sad.
Yeah, right in Middle Eastern.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to give you the opportunity to clear up a question we had on the questionnaire.
Mhm.
So we gave you guys the opportunity to say yes or no about, do you support efforts to criminalize Americans who engage in political, social, or economic boycotts of foreign countries. It's an issue we struggle with now.
No, I do not support decriminalization. We're built on the foundation of the freedom of speech. And if I criminalized that, I would have been in jail several times before, because I have been calling out everything from South Africa to even some of the things we're seeing taking place across the globe now. So to answer directly, I do not support the criminalization of that. I think it strikes at the foundation of who we are as Americans. We have the right to disagree, and we have the right to raise our voices.
Thank you for that. It means a lot to Yemenis, especially in these times, considering there's a civil war back in Yemen. But most of the Middle East is dealing with crises like this. I want to give you my personal thank you for everything you mentioned for us today. We're happy to hear the support you give Yemeni Americans, and we hope to bring that support back to you. And I know Brother Naji, if you want to take it away here.
Sure. Just want to thank you very much for making some time on. I know you're juggling everything from here to there. You're much busier than anyone that I could think of at this moment. I don't envy your position. I will never run for mayor or any city office, because we like our peace of mind. But we appreciate you in more ways than you could imagine. And I just got a text from my nephew Adil, by the way, who was the first Yemeni to become a police officer back in 1997, I think. And just as a backup, when after 9/11, my nephew Adil Al-Muntasir and Detective Ahmed Nasser, they both retired now, they wanted to start an organization. And at that time, who did they pick to ask them to help them? They called Eric Adams, and he was helpful in helping them form the Muslim Officer Society, which we are now over 1,500 plus. So right. Yeah, so that I just want to put that in there and we have so many Yemeni young folks going into the New York Police Department. It's really uplifting that a community was under such harsh environment after 9/11, and all of a sudden they decided, you know what, we're going to go into law, we're going to go into the police department, and we're going to make things different, and they have. So I just want to end with that. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. And for all of our folks that are merchants that are witnessing this event, please share it. It's on our Facebook Live, and we will be, giving it out, sending it out to all the media sources that we need, because we want everybody to know who's who is running for becoming the mayor of the best and the greatest city on earth, which is New York City. So thank you very much. God bless you all. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Oh, man, that was great.
That was good. Thank you, everybody.
Man.
We plan on having our endorsement by the end of next week. So we're going to be doing a series of questionnaires. We have Sean Donovan tomorrow and Maya Wali on Monday. So please stay tuned.
Sean Donovan, what time tomorrow?
Tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Okay, so Sean Donovan tomorrow, 11 a.m. And Maya Wiley, what time on Monday?
4:30 p.m. on Monday.
Okay.
Feel free to send your questions. We want to make sure that they address our needs directly. Thank you, everybody. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Everyone.